Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This time really is different. The holy grail, the Bitcoin super cycle, it is here, but it's not what you think. Michael Saylor has announced a 10-for-1 stock split of MicroStrategy. Elon Musk could start accepting Bitcoin on a broken promise. Donald Trump is speaking at the biggest Bitcoin conference in the world. Joining us today is Robin Seyr, a man who needs absolutely no introduction. If you don't know who this man Robin is, I've linked this conversation with Michael Saylor below. Welcome back to the show, Robin.
Hi, thank you, Sean, for having me on. I love the intro. I love the sun going up, like the Bitcoin sun is going up on the hill. It's like the Bitcoin adoption, perfect to our topic today.
It's that bright orange future that we're all here for now. Like I feel, and I'd like to get your thoughts, Robin, but we're on the precipice of like the most exciting time in human history. We've got the hardest money humanity's ever known. We live in a digital age, AI, what's happening there and where that's going to go over the next, say, 5, 10, 15 years. It's pretty exciting with Bitcoin tied in. Like, if we didn't have Bitcoin, I think it'd be a pretty scary world for a lot of people, but we do have this pristine asset. So I'd like to get a little bit of your thoughts about diving into the super cycle, hyper-Bitcoinization, how you believe, Robin, Bitcoin's going to continue to keep playing out, keep getting adopted. What are your thoughts?
First of all, I want to comment on that. Like, it's really cool when you say, like, what a time to be alive. First of all, I think if we only had the internet and we did not had any Bitcoin or some money or digital scarcity or whatever, I think the internet would be really scary. Think about the internet without Bitcoin. It's like total control of the government. It's like total, like big tech, the corporations, the governments, they're just looking at you. And if you don't have Bitcoin, it could be a scary place. But to your point, to your question, the Bitcoin adoption, I think, will continue to grow. We have seen, like, since when we go back in 2013, 2012, 2011, where like small investors came in, like small people came in. Then we had like 2020, where the first publicly traded company came in with MicroStrategy. Then we had 2021, a crazy year where El Salvador and the richest dude alive with Elon Musk came in and also then dropped out again. but it was a good test to Bitcoin, but still he was in. And I mean, Tesla, I think, still holds Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken.
They do, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Elon Musk himself personally owns more Bitcoin than 99.999% of all Bitcoin hodlers, because he has just a lot of money laying around. And then we got to the Bitcoin ETF, and the Bitcoin ETF is just enabling a lot of the groundwork that has been done before. I feel like we kind of have now all the buckets in place. We have now all the things in place. We have like publicly traded company, we have countries, we have the Bitcoin ETF, we have institutional adoption, we have all those great podcasters, we have all those great books out there, we have all the, like, everything is kind of aligned now to be a massive storm of Bitcoin adoption, and we're still early. Like this is I think one of the greatest times to even come to Bitcoin, because all the buckets has been laying around, and now we are just getting ready to those buckets, like the ETF one, the countries one, the institutional one. They can be filled now. And everything has been done already, and we can just enjoy now the next like 5, 10, 15 years of adoption. It will be a hard ride. Like, it will not be like, oh, from now on it's only up and everything is super duper. No, there will be like a lot of crashes and ups and downs and FUDs and news and tries to keep it down or tries to keep it in sideways. Like, there will be a lot of things happening, and I'm looking forward to the wild ride. But I think directionally, it's massively bullish that I see Bitcoin right now.
Yeah. Like, on that threat, to pull on a little bit, yesterday I was at Bunnings, which is like Home Depot for people over in the States, like a hardware shop. And I was getting the gas bottle for the barbecue refilled. And I was talking to the guy, and I was wearing a Study Bitcoin shirt and the Satoshi Nakamoto hat. He's like, oh, you're into that Bitcoin thing? I'm like, yeah, you not? He's like, nah, it's too expensive or whatever. I said, mate, the way to think about it is Bitcoin's only in year one. It took 15 years to get everything ready for it. The cypherpunks came in, they made the code, they got everything ready for it. Now we've had nation states, institutions, but I said just this year, Larry Fink came into the space, and I said, I don't like Larry Fink, but him endorsing Bitcoin and launching the Bitcoin ETF has literally endorsed it in the eyes of the financial world. So it's not about Bitcoin's 15 years old. It took 14 years to get ready. Now is year one. It's only at a $1.13 trillion market cap. Like, now is the best risk-adjusted return. He's like, oh, that makes sense. And the conversation was going for about 40 minutes. But to bring it in that small, and he's like, all right, I'll study Bitcoin now. So people are like waking up to it. But I don't know if you know the name of that law, the adoption. It's taken us 15 years to get to like 5 to 10% market adoption, which means over the next 15 years, we'll get to like 80, 90% market adoption. And like you were saying, Robin, it's not going to be easy when you're in it, but neither is like Bitcoin's entire history. I'll bring up the price chart. Like even daily, today is a $2,000 volatile day. And say if we were to zoom out max, to ride through these things, it's not easy. But when you talk to people, so many people, I don't know if you get it, oh, you just got lucky, that's not for me, I'm not a lucky person, or whatever. What are those conversations in your life like for the people that you've been talking to Bitcoin about maybe for the last couple of years and they still haven't gotten it when they should have, and then they feel bad, I guess, because they didn't take the time to read the books, study what Bitcoin is, and they're like, you just got lucky, you know? And you're like, no, it didn't. I had to ride through insane volatility to be able to get here.
It's really interesting because the man who orange pilled me still has no Bitcoin. And the way he orange pilled me was he asked me about Bitcoin. Hey, because I was in stocks and he was also in stocks, and he was like, hey, I read more and more about the Bitcoin thing. What is it? And I was like, it's a fad. It's like, it's a scam and whatever. I did not know what I was talking about clearly, but he kept asking me about it because he was curious and did not want to do the research. And then he kept asking me, and he kept asking good questions, even though he had no Bitcoin and still to this day has no Bitcoin. I was researching that because I was like noticing that I have no good arguments against Bitcoin. And this was a weekend from Friday to Sunday where I actually discovered Bitcoin. From Friday, I was going from, oh, it's a scam, to, oh, Sunday, it might be something. Monday, Coinbase account. Tuesday, first ledger buy. I don't endorse Ledger and Coinbase anymore. But I used that at that point. So the point here is those people who are willing to wake up, to those people who are willing to actually questioning what is going on in the world, what is going on with Bitcoin, what is going on with the financial system, those will be rewarded the most. And I think that's the main part to take away. There are a lot of my family, like my mom has Bitcoin, my dad has Bitcoin, my sister has Bitcoin. The closer the people are to me, the more they get Bitcoin, obviously. But there are a lot of my family, the majority of my family, who don't have Bitcoin. But I always have this Christmas table scenario where in my head, where I was like, the Christmas table in 2019 was 0 Bitcoiner, and we are a big family, like a really big family, like when everyone from one side comes together, like 50 people or something like that. And there was 0 Bitcoiner on there. Nobody had any understanding of Bitcoin and had no Bitcoin in their wallets. 2020, I was the first weird one to have Bitcoin.
Let's go.
And now we have like, I don't know, 25, 30% of people in Bitcoin, or at least like have some Bitcoin. And one cousin of mine, one small cousin of mine, he's like 17 years old. He really understood it. Like he actually understands it way better than I did, with like 2 years older than him or something like that. So we just need that like one Bitcoiner per family who does not even sell them on the idea of Bitcoin. We just need them to be there if there are questions. Like they will come. This price cycles, this Donald Trump Bitcoin, Larry Fink talks about it. It's on the news. It's on CNBC. It runs down the line with the Bitcoin price symbol. So like Bitcoin has the best marketing team ever, and we just need to be prepared when people come with questions. I always recommend everyone like have a small notes open where like have like 2 free podcasts in there, 2 free books in there, where just like quickly send them their way. Like, hey, start there if you want to learn more about that. So that's the thing that I always recommend. Like, be there for the people who have questions, and don't argue too much with the people who are not willing to learn, because it's a waste of your time, and it just strengthens. It just makes them feel more against that Bitcoin. Like if you really argue with them, it makes, like, I loved it so much in the Seyr interview that we talked about before, where Seyr talked about we should spread Bitcoin with love, and we have the best thing ever. We don't have to sell it. They will come when the time is right. Bitcoin marketing team all around the world is working on it, and we just need to be ready with answering their questions.
Yeah, that rule of sailors is to share Bitcoin with love. When he was talking about that in your interview, was absolutely golden, and I sort of took that to heart. And I guess it's just natural after a couple of years of trying to orange people, you'd bring it up, I'd give them books, like, hey, have you bought, have you read, have you studied, have you watched it, have you done anything about it? And they're like, oh, no, or oh, I tried reading it, it's too complicated. And I'd really feel it like as an attack on my own ego, like, oh, man, I've let this person down. I haven't communicated Bitcoin in the right way for them to understand. And now I'm like, I have no idea what they've got going on in their life. I'll do my best, but I've brought it up once, maybe twice, and if they come back to me, I'm here for them. And I think that's the best way to go about it. But I'm still like, oh, damn, like Bitcoin, when I was talking to some people, is it like $3,000, or I was talking to other people, is it like $17,000? Now we'll dive into the price shortly, but I think we're at, what, $57,000. And you're like, all right, so I'm talking about it now, and then it's going to be at $100,000 and $250,000. And you're like, I just want people to be able to start buying a little bit now, so they get used to the volatility, instead of, oh, Sean told me about Bitcoin at 50,000. Now it's at 100,000. Let's jump in because everybody's talking about it. And then it's really volatile. And the first wick down, they get shaken out and they're like, no, see, told you Bitcoin was a scam. I was right the whole time. I'm never going back to it. And they get burnt in these bull runs. And I think like what we're going to see towards the end of the year, next year, could be absolutely insane price-wise. But that comes with a huge amount of volatility and a huge amount of risk for people that haven't bothered to read the books or study. What are those conversations like once people be like, okay, like I'm starting to understand Bitcoin. I understand that I should buy a little bit, say more so with your friends and family. How do you talk about the volatility? Because it's not just straight up, Robin. It'd be nice if it was, but Bitcoin is a volatile beast. You know, when people see a chart like that, they're like, no, not for me. It can scare people out. Like on the 24, 1 week, 1 month, 3 month, we're all down. That's pretty hard for a lot of people to be able to stomach. But if they can ride through that, then they get something like this.
You have to understand what Bitcoin really is. If you really understand what Bitcoin is, and when you really understand what the long-term vision here is, you care less and less about it. Like I remember my first year, I was so scared. Like I was going up and down. I never told. I'm proud of me that I achieved that, but it was hard, and I don't know how I achieved it actually, because I was buying high, I was buying low. It was like. But when you go in there and you actually talk with someone that is not used to that, like there are people in my life that has been in volatile stocks. I don't have to explain them the volatility, but there are those mom and dads out there that don't want to invest. They're really conservative. The only investment they have in Austria, very typical, is their own house. That's the only investment they ever have in their life. And they have a credit that runs for 30 years and they pay it off. And they're in those credit prisons, I would call it. And they really cannot handle that. And that's why I also don't put the Bitcoin out too much, because I don't want to press them into anything. They have to, a certain extent, step up, educate themselves, ask the right questions, and do the hard work themselves. If they don't do that, they will be shaken out. That's the hard truth. Like, you cannot really prepare anyone for that volatility if they're not ready to do some research. If you don't understand Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes down 80%, you will sell it. You will panic, and you will not go through there. There might be like 5% in there that like, oh, okay, now it's 80% down. I don't care. I leave it in there. There might be some of those people, but most people will probably panic even like at 50, 60% before already. So the main part is that they understand it. I always recommend first get your feet wet. Like, just buy like 100 euros of it. Like, if you have a net worth of like 50,000 euros, you don't care about like 50 euros. Just it's like one-time restaurant bill. Like, just go and buy 50 euros of Bitcoin, leave it on exchange. Don't mess with a self-custody solution right now. Just dabble into there. Then you have skin in the game. Then you can read more about it. You learn more about it. And then, like, after a week or so, like, if they feel more comfortable, they can dabble in a little bit more. They can dabble in a little bit more. I was going from 0 to 100% in 1 year. I sold all my stocks, like Tesla, Facebook, whatever I had. I was in the process of actually getting my first real estate going. I was not starting that because of Bitcoin. I never ventured into real estate because of Bitcoin, which is also an interesting topic. More and more real estate people coming into Bitcoin. But the important thing is to know it is volatile. You have to stomach that. It will be volatile also in the future. It's probably will not be as volatile it was like 2011, but maybe it will be like like even that could be possible if there's something crazy happening. Like, if we shoot up tomorrow at 300,000, maybe we are like a few days later like at 80,000, and everyone is like, oh, that we have that swing. Like, there are a lot of things that can happen with Bitcoin, even though it's theirs in 15 years, it seems very solid, and it is extremely solid. From a financial standpoint, if a big whale, like I'm talking like Apple converting 10% of their balance sheet in Bitcoin or something like that, something crazy like that, that could move Bitcoin very quickly to very high highs, especially with the FOMO, and then really, and also the time that we're in, and then the ETFs are going, and like there could be like those God candles that we're talking about. They are a real possibility. And we are also, like, always when we talk about volatility, we are talking about volatility to the downside. But what if you sell it because it went up 50%? You did not lose money. You made money. You made fiat currencies. But maybe it never went down to that point again. Maybe it's a God candle straight to 500,000 and you sold it 150,000 and you got shaken out by upside volatility. That's also a thing. Like, how many people got shaken out who bought at $100 and they saw it to 1,000, they sold. Then now it's like it's 60, 70,000 or 50,000. I don't even know the price right now. I think 60,000. And they are like, oh shit, I had so many Bitcoins and now I'm struggling to get to one Bitcoin. So like volatility is both sides, down and upside, and you have to be ready for that. And I'm sounding like a broken record, but you have to study that thing. At this point, either you blindly believe some Bitcoin in your life and you just hold it. For example, like my mom, she doesn't understand it. I explain her, but she just holds it and she will never sell as long as I don't tell her to sell, because she trusts me blindly. But outside of those situations, you have to do the work. Like you really have to dive deep, and it's not like, oh yeah, I look 2 videos, it's like 5 hours, and then I know about Bitcoin. We all know it's so much deeper than that. And
Yeah.
I hate to quote Seyr again, but he made an amazing quote. He said like something like, "Oh, you work like 80,000 hours in your life. Take 100 hours out of that time and study what money is. And when you study what money is, this will lead you to Bitcoin."
Yeah, 100%. It definitely takes 100 hours, but if someone can just commit to 10 hours, I think, to wanting to understand what Bitcoin is, like with this gentleman yesterday when I was talking to him, the conversation went on for a long time. I said, I promise you, if you take no action now, if you do not bother to study Bitcoin now over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, in the next 10, 15 years, you're really going to regret it, and it's going to be the worst decision of your life. I said, you don't need to buy Bitcoin, but you need to understand what Bitcoin is so you can make an informed decision what you do or don't do in regards to Bitcoin. And he looked at me like, you're a bit of a prick, because I was telling him, you know, if you don't do this, you're going to regret it. Just the message, study Bitcoin, not buy Bitcoin, just study Bitcoin. And hopefully he took it to heart. But, you know, that volatility, those God candles coming about, a God candle of 100,000, God candle $10,000. Like I talk about that all the time on the show. $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 days. We're going to have this cycle, both to the upside and to the downside. And it's just a process of realizing, like, that's part of it. When Bitcoin runs too fast, too quick, it's going to come back down further. But what we've seen with the massive amounts of sell pressure from the German government close to your home, Robin, over the last couple of weeks is incredible. Yes, Bitcoin's down from its all-time high. If 22%, all-time high 73,737 roughly, down 22%. That's a lot for a lot of people to stomach, but it's very natural for Bitcoin to be able to do it. So, like, what are your thoughts on Germany? I'll bring it up. They're down to about 5,000 coins now. They're almost sold. They've really done nothing. They've had no impact. They have had a little bit of impact, but it's, I guess, like nothing to worry about, or at least I don't feel like that. I'm like, good. Once they're sold, they can't sell again. Like they're done. And maybe they've got a day, 2 days left, maybe the end of the week.
There are a lot of thoughts in there. Like, first of all, I think they would have to change a law to actually hold the Bitcoin. I think there's some law going on locally in Sachsen where, like, not Germany, but Sachsen actually got the Bitcoin. And I think there it is like a local district of Germany, as far as I'm informed. And as I read it, like, I'm not a law expert, they would have to change something so they can actually hold the Bitcoin. And the other thing is, it's good that they're selling, because this is a government, big organization that gives out the Bitcoin to the people. Like, we, all the plebs, they are benefiting from it. I like when a big corporation is selling Bitcoin, because then they give it out, they redistribute it. That makes the Bitcoin network more distributed. The wealth is more distributed, and that's a good thing. Like, I think we should celebrate the German government for selling it. I don't want the German government now to figure out Bitcoin and stack like crazy. I want to have like another 5 years where I can stack like crazy. So maybe the perspective shift is important here. Another thing, data point that's interesting is El Salvador now has more Bitcoin than Germany. Will Germany ever catch up to El Salvador when El Salvador keeps buying Bitcoin and Germany keeps selling Bitcoin? How will this go in like 5 years? I mean, I think that El Salvador does not buy enough Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin a day is great, but it's a country with a lot of people in there. They would have a more possibilities on the upside. They could even go stronger in there, but yeah, probably there are a lot more strings attached to that. And I love that they are doing it, and it's also like 1 Bitcoin a day is a great symbolic thing. So a lot of thoughts in my head. It's also really close to me. Like Germany is like the neighbor country of Austria, and like Europe is like one big country with a lot of small countries in there, which are having different cultures and different languages. It's complicated, Europe, but Germany and Austria is pretty much the same thing, same language, it's kind of the same culture and everything. So I've been very close, and it's all over my feed since like 2 weeks. But I've also seen the price today, like the last 5 days, it has not moved that much. The sell thing I think before that. So yeah, Germany, I think they don't want to like dump the Bitcoin price or anything like that. I think they're legally required to sell the Bitcoin, as far as I know. And they like it's a bad look for Germany again. They could do something with them. They have those Bitcoins, and maybe they can just like hold on to it. It would be a great thing. And I got today, I think, the message that I should summarize all the game theory of like which government has how many Bitcoin, why did they have them, how did they got them. Would be an interesting video. Maybe we can dive into that a little bit. But I think it's really interesting to see the global game theory playing out. Small countries that were literally on the bottom of countries list, like the highest murder rate, really bad living conditions, like El Salvador, they are outstacking Bitcoin. They are outstacking Germany with Bitcoin, and there will be some beautiful stories inside of Bitcoin when we look back at those times in history in like 10 years.
Yeah. I really like the story of Bataan, how they're like mining in secret, and then they got found out, and it's probably not just unique to Bataan. I'm sure there's plenty of smaller countries, even if it's on a minute scale, happening. Like when I titled this video, The Super Cycle or Hyper Bitcoinizations here, I truly believe it is. I think Bitcoin is going up into the right forever over time. However, that does not mean it's not going to be volatile. I said it just earlier, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 days to the downside, to the upside. It's not really about that. The super cycle to me is just more and more people waking up to the fact that the governments are literally stealing their life force by printing money. Inflation is the most sinister thing to control the human population. It's not going to get any better. Worldwide debt is out of control. People really are struggling. Bitcoin over time, a Bitcoin standard does fix that. It takes, 100 hours minimum just to get any idea. But if people can just start with 10. But Bitcoin now being the world's biggest, most recognizable brand in the world, with most people, just the everyday person, has probably already gotten 3 to 4 hours worth of information on Bitcoin, even if it's just through mainstream media. And as time progresses, they're going to hear more and more about it. Once Bitcoin hits $100,000, when that happens, I think sooner rather than later, but I actually don't care, and nobody knows the future on like the time frame. It's not going to happen tomorrow, or it's unlikely to happen tomorrow, but it could. But as the number keeps going up, and they've already heard a couple of hours worth of information over the last couple of cycles, that's a few more touch points, and people like, that thing, it's still around. Like my sign guy, they're like, oh, you're into that Bitcoin thing. Yeah, isn't that dead? No, Bitcoin's not dead. It's at whatever it is in Australian dollars. I think it was like $90,000 when I had that conversation. They're like, what? And I said, yeah, it's probably time to be able to study it, whether they did or didn't. But then it'll be at 100,000 US, and they'll be like, this thing's still not dying. It's still not here. So like on this thread, we've got Donald Trump speaking at Nashville, the biggest Bitcoin conference in the world. RFK is going to be there as well. What a time, hey? America is the rules the world, really, like at least the Western world. So if we get if the world gets a pro Bitcoin president, or just he's okay with it, you know, he's changed a lot lately. But whether it's just to be able to get votes and he doesn't care, but he allows you to be able to self-custody if Trump was to get in, for example, it's amazing to me that we're here now. I think it's a lot to do with Larry Fink. Like, I really think it's just year one of Bitcoin. What are your thoughts around Trump and his abrupt turn? Because he was dead set against it. He was sort of on the side of Warren Buffett for a long time.
It's fascinating for me. First of all, like, I'm really envy. Like, we had in the EU elections not that long ago. I studied the EU elections really closely because I wanted to know what topics they're talking about, and I was disappointed a lot. And what I also studied was all the Austrian parties. I mean, Austria is a very small country, and all the parties that were involved there in the EU election, and also some outside of Austria. And I searched their political programs for the EU election, and there was not one word for like cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, digital currencies, nothing like that. It's fascinating for me how not on the radar, or like wrongly on the radar, the EU has that, and how far ahead already the Americans are. Again, they have now the likely next president and ex-president Donald J. Trump, who is endorsing Bitcoin. And there are a lot of the debates, oh, is he a Bitcoin or not? Like, who cares? He talks about Bitcoin, and he talks like, then there are also people say like, no, it's there. He has just like someone for Bitcoin magazine telling him like he's writing the speeches for him. Like, who cares? Like, that's the potentially next president of the United States, and he recognizes that he has to be pro Bitcoin to win elections. How big is that? Tell this someone in 2017, 2018, especially 2018. Yeah, they would not believe you that the next president of the United States and the former president of the United States is just talking positively about Bitcoin. That's unheard of. Like, it was not on my list for this year. I was like, it might be a topic. You know, like, okay, RFK is in there. He was last year in the Bitcoin conference also. Like, it might be a topic. Maybe he gets some questions. No, they're like, he talks about that. And there's a reason for that. Like, Donald Trump will not get Bitcoin because he needs that for like monetary reasons or something like that. If he did not have an election to win, he would not talk about Bitcoin right now. That's also very clear to me. At least I think. Like, I don't know him personally, so I have no clue what's going on in his head actually. But when we see now he has an election to win, and someone brought that up. I forgot which guest of mine on the podcast it was. But there are a similar amount of people who hold Bitcoin and crypto than people that have a dog in the United States. So being against Bitcoin right now is like being against dogs. Like, oh, you should not hold dogs. Like, dogs are bad. Which president would say that? The same thing with Bitcoin. You cannot be against Bitcoin. And another thing that I want to point out here, I heard a speech of him, and he said specifically crypto and Bitcoin. Like, the best case scenario would be like when he would say Bitcoin. But how amazing is that the next US president recognizes that there is a difference between crypto and Bitcoin. He says like, crypto and Bitcoin, not crypto including Bitcoin or something like that, or not just crypto. He says crypto and Bitcoin. He recognizes that there's a difference between those things. So we did a great job in making that thing very, very clear. And I remember when I started in my Bitcoin journey in 2020, this was not clear to the outside world. Now the president gets it, and he tells the whole nation of America there is crypto and there's Bitcoin. Different thing, not the same thing.
Yeah, they're very different. It's pretty incredible when he came out with that. I think we've got a lot to thank for Vivek Ramaswamy probably for getting in President Donald Trump, or former President Donald Trump's ear about that, and credit where credit's due. What David Bailey is doing, that's a hard pill to swallow. They've been pushing ordinals and a whole lot of stuff, but good on him for having that conversation. Like, truly hats off for these conversations to be able to take place, and RFK coming out there. But like, what a time to be alive. And you're 100% right. Trump has recognized that if he's got any chance to be able to win the election, he needs to take a stance on Bitcoin. So what are your thoughts then on like Operation Choke Point 2.0, like all the nonsense that's coming out of Senator Elizabeth Warren? She's gone quiet lately, like really quiet. She was so vocal, especially last year. And adds a relief, but they still sort of have that, at least Warren does. She's on the side of the banksters. She's paid, would be my guess, by people like Jamie Dimon. But what are your thoughts on them taking the other side of the stance?
There will always be someone on the other side, I think. And the main thing is, like, they don't get that when you attack Bitcoin, you feed Bitcoin. Like, this is a monster. It's a virus that just spreads, and when you fight against it, it just gets better. Like, you hit some vaccine in Bitcoin, and it gets just immune against that, and it grows stronger from that. Like, it always keeps on living, and it affects more and more people. And it's a virus that's good for the human civilization. So I think that's what they don't get about it. No matter what they do, no matter what they bring to it, they give it more and more power. Every time Warren Buffett talks about Bitcoin, every time Jamie Dimon talks about Bitcoin, they give it power. Like, they give it airtime. It comes up another time in the news cycle. It comes up another time. So it's a hard topic for me if Bitcoin has already won or not, because there can always be a black swan. There can always be something. But the main thing for me is always like, we have now grouped together an alliance of Bitcoiners who believe in sound money. And even if, like, I really don't believe that Bitcoin will die, but even if Bitcoin dies, the idea is in our heads, and we will fight till we die to get sound money into this world. And I'm truly hopeful, not just because we have Bitcoin, but also because we have such an amazing community. This community is what gives people hope. This community is what people truly love about Bitcoin. Like, when we go to Bitcoin conferences and talk with all the people, like, I rarely talk about Bitcoin there. Like, I talk about everything. And I have this also, like, recently discovered on my Bitcoin podcast, is like, when you have a stock podcast, you only talk about stocks. When you have a real estate podcast, you only talk about real estate. When you have a Bitcoin podcast, you talk about everything. The mindset comes up, discipline comes up, proof of work comes up. I made a whole podcast around being a good parent, how to raise a kid in this world to think for themselves. And this was crazy. I thought, like, oh, it will flop. It was with Lisa Huff, because it was completely out of line with my Bitcoin content. But it was a great hit. People loved it. People got, like, such messages. Oh, that was really inspiring. Oh, it helped me with my kid. Oh, I wanted to add this story for my kid. Like, I think Bitcoin community is such an amazing thing to be in. So, like, everyone that's in the live stream, like you and everyone that's watching this, like, be grateful that you found the best community on earth. I cannot fathom that I found this, and that's what's more and more important. We got these human nodes connections to each other now. And this is a thing Elizabeth Warren can talk all day long. They can talk all day long. Like, I don't even hear it. I don't know. Like, I have no clue what she's talking about, because I have those strong connections to my other human beings, the other Bitcoiners, and that's something truly amazing. And I'm just so grateful to be here. And that's why I'm saying yes to anybody that anywhere wants to talk about Bitcoin. Like, I'm coming on live stream, I'm coming on spaces. I just love talking about Bitcoin and spreading the message. More and more with love, less and less with.
Yeah, I'm moving more and more towards that as well. Instead of demonizing people like Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren, they're just part of the old system. That's fine. And when you said you're not sure if Bitcoin's won yet, I'm not sure if it has for everyone, but for me personally, Bitcoin's won in my life. And like you're saying, just to add on to that, being here with yourself and for every Bitcoiner that's watching live, watching the replay, for the community, for everyone, for every Bitcoiner we get to talk to on the phone, meet in person, it's like being part of the greatest club or the greatest mastermind that's ever existed or that I've ever come across. And our network is our net worth. And the Bitcoin network of people is literally on the hardest money ever. How's that not going to elevate somebody's consciousness, the way that they see the world, be in the world? Like you're saying, Bitcoiners will talk about absolutely everything because it's don't trust, verify. It's please come back to truth. What's going on in the world? What's the signal? What's the noise? We may get it wrong. I may get it wrong. I get a lot of things wrong, but the community will jump out. They'll reach out, or somebody will say, hey, that's not right. And it's just about continuous improvement. That's saying Kaizen, continuous improvement, just coming back and doing the best you can with what you've got. And if that's not good enough, getting more information to be able to progress forward. Just really quickly, I would like to bring up today's sponsor, The Bitcoin Way. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got Bitcoin on the exchange, you need help, you just want to get your stack secured, make sure your computer's locked down, it's air gapped, help with running the node. The first 30 minutes is free. Tony and the team, absolutely incredible. Tony used to work under Steve Jobs, 25 years cybersecurity experience. I've had him on the show many times. Definitely check him out, but they've got a 3 steps to freedom. Number 1, secure your Bitcoin self-custody. 2 is protect your devices with Casper. Really interesting. Check out what they've going on there. Number 3, if the world or your country gets absolutely wild, tyrannical like that, I want to talk about this, Robin, that 90% proposed wealth tax. Just opt out. Get a second passport, go somewhere that will treat you with respect. Anyway, first 30 minutes is free. The Bitcoin Way cybersecurity team. But talking about that proposed 90% wealth tax, we've seen inflation like go through the roof over the last couple of years. In 4 years, they doubled the money supply. Took us 100 years to get here. 4 years, they're like, bang, let's just double the money in the world, which is absolutely insane. Everything's gone up. Hard assets have gone up. House prices, our house more than doubled. You know, gold's gone up. Stock market at or near all-time highs. Bitcoin's gone up. It's down a little bit from its all-time high. But people's wages, even though they've gone up in a lot of countries, still haven't kept up with inflation. Then you've got tyrannical regimes getting in there and saying they want to put a 90% tax on people that earn over like £400,000. Like, what are your thoughts on regards to the government coming out with these agendas, and maybe how does Bitcoin fix this either for the world or just in people's own lives?
Amazing. First of all, like, I love the Bitcoin Way. Like, I just want to double down on that. Like, I love the guys from there. I love Tony. I love Rick. I had them on the podcast. So like, if you have any question about self-custody, use Sean's link, use the things, whatever you have to set up with them. I don't know, we did not speak about that before, but I just want to shout out them because Tony is one of the few people that like I fully trust him, and he's one of the great persons, and I love to have him on the podcast. I will have him soon back on, like in August. Another podcast will air of him, and it's like he's really a true warrior for Bitcoin and freedom and for all these things. But that just aside, when we have wealth tax, like let's talk about Bitcoin being taxed, because the It's like, oh, Bitcoin tax and stuff like that. Of course, governments will try, but where do you want to store your wealth in? Like you should diversify your citizenship as much as you can, but maybe you live in a weird country like in Austria where you cannot have a second passport, legally at least. And I have to look into that. Maybe I have to talk with Tony how to do the job in Austria, and there might be ways. But even if you don't have like a diversified thing, what asset would you rather own? Would you rather own a home? Would you rather own stocks? Would you rather own just your bank and a bank account? Would you rather own Bitcoin? And for everyone that studied Bitcoin for like 5 minutes knows Bitcoin is the most secure, most movable thing ever. Like try going with 2 kilos of gold through airport. Then you know, oh, you don't own your gold. Like, no, you try to go there, they assume you have stolen it. Like every airport you go there with gold, they assume you have stolen it, and then they take it away from you. Go there with like 10,000 euros of cash, and try to fly from like Austria to Australia. They will not let you. You have to declare it. You have to do it. They will assume that you robbed it, that you have done something wrong. With Bitcoin, even if they know that you have Bitcoin, even if they KYC'd you, everything like that, even if they did that, they cannot stop you from doing with your Bitcoin whatever you want with them, with those Bitcoin. I don't want to suggest anything, but maybe you have been hacked. Maybe your Bitcoin has been stolen. You don't have control anymore. They cannot prove you anything. And it's like, in case of crazy taxes, you want to have the most movable asset ever. And what's more movable than saving it in your head and taking it everywhere where you want to go? I like, for if you want to have self-custody setup, don't rely only on your head. You will hit your head and you will lose all your Bitcoin. But if you want to move across a border, you can go over a border with your Bitcoin, no matter if it's 10 euros or 10 billion euros. You can go with that money in your head over a border and nobody even sees it. They don't know about it. Like, it's like, oh, you are Bitcoin. No, till the time we all plug in a Neuralink and we all can read all the data in our head, till then, nobody knows. And I would suggest not putting chips in your brain. Opt out of that if there's any chance of that. But till then, Bitcoin is an asset, and that's a great thing. You can choose to die with Bitcoin. Like if someone holds a knife up to your throat and says like, give me all your gold, you can give it or not. But if you not give it, he can kill you, and he has your gold. The same with houses, same with everything else. With Bitcoin, you probably still give it to him, but you have the option. Like if he kills you, then the Bitcoin are gone. Like he does not, he has no incentive to kill you. And that's the big thing. It's like you have the control over your Bitcoin. And no matter what the governments do, you want to be in the best asset possible for that. And that's like no brainer. Like when you studied all the assets, that's Bitcoin. Like that, there's no question about that. So that's my answer to that. I think governments. And another thing, I think Rich Dad Poor Dad mentioned that in his legendary book. They always try to tax the rich, and then they tax the middle class, the poor and middle class, because the rich move. They don't stay and wait to be taxed. But the middle class is a way bigger portion. There's way more money to get. The same was with the income tax. They tried with the income tax to tax the rich. Now, who pays the income tax? Not the rich. So like whatever they do, they try to sell it as like they're taxing the rich, but they're actually taxing the middle class. Don't let you fool. Don't be fooled by your government. No tax will ever tax the rich. Prepare yourself to not be taxed. Prepare yourself to be movable, to be diversified as from the Bitcoin way. Diversify as much as you can, as early as you can, with your self-custody setup, with your life setup. And I know it's not even always easy because you have family, you have roots, you belong to a place. But be prepared for the worst and then hope for the best.
Yeah. I guess like adding on to that, the Bitcoin way, when I did the interview with Tony, it's like, I am going to swear, it truly is fuck you money. You become a complete self-sovereign individual. You become uncensorable, unconfiscatable. And that's a revolution. Yes, it's not for everyone, but to be able to have that option for the first time where you can actually be a sovereign, free human being is a miracle. And we have this option, and maybe things don't get as bad as what they potentially could be with digital IDs, CBDCs, AI, the singularity event coming in here, and robots with guns and all that stuff. You know, I'm a little bit tinfoil hat. I'm just messing around a little bit. But what if it does? Well, now we've got this time in human history where we can prepare and just opt out, just move. Or if it gets better, the world just gets better instead of getting worse first before it gets better. It doesn't matter, you know, you've got that call card, that option on the future. It's pretty bloody exciting. Robin, I want to switch gears a little bit before we went live. You're saying you're looking right into how much Bitcoin you need for retirement. Absolutely fascinating conversation. A lot of factors come into play here. But how are you thinking about setting yourself up now over the next couple of years? Maybe somebody's just getting into Bitcoin today for the first time. It's already at 57,000 or whatever the price is currently. How do you start thinking about approaching that conversation of stacking sats, not to be able to get rich now, but to be able to use that for your retirement years?
Like, what's the goal? Like, when we talk about retirement, we always have to ask, like, what's the goal? What do you want to achieve? And for me, retirement means, even if I stand up tomorrow and decide to not do anything productive for the rest of my life, I'm financially fine. That's the thing. If I decide tomorrow I don't want to do anything else, till my average life expectancy, like let's say 80 years, 90 years old, I'm fine with that. And I have enough to live on. Like, you have to figure out, okay, what's your cost of living, and then you have to like calculate what's all those different factors with Bitcoin going up and everything like that. A lot of things going on. But for me, retirement in itself is something that I've kind of already reached, not because I have a lot of money. When I stop working tomorrow, I'm broke really soon. but unfortunately, I've also bought Bitcoin, the most of my Bitcoin in 2021, so not the best time to buy. But when we come to the point, what is retirement? Is like, you stand up, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. And I have to do some things in my life that I don't want to do. For example, tax reporting, collecting my bills and showing and scanning it and showing the taxman, oh yeah, I can write this off because I have this and that. Like, that's a weird thing to do, and I have to do it in Austria for revenue tax. There's a value-added tax on revenue. I have to do it 4 times a year, which is completely annoying. And when I grow further, and I probably have to do it every month, which is even more bothering. But the thing is, like, I want to do only what I really love and to do, and I really want to do. And when you achieve that, that's for me retirement. Yeah. So what what's the best amount to retire on in Bitcoin? Depends on like, do you want to retire on tomorrow, or do you want to retire on in like 10, 20 years? If you want to retire in 20 years and you're now in Bitcoin, congratulations, you probably already reached retirement money. Like, if you have now a certain amount of Bitcoin and you want to retire in 20 years, that amount is probably already enough. If you have any significant amount of your net worth in Bitcoin, with a few exceptions that are maybe just living day to day and they really don't have any savings. But if you have any significant amount right now for yourself in Bitcoin, that will be probably enough in 20 years. If you want to retire tomorrow, that's a whole nother level. Like you need a lot of Bitcoin for that, because Bitcoin can be very volatile. You have to calculate with a $12,000 Bitcoin. I don't think we ever reach those levels. But if you really want to retire, then you have to consider those really low prices. It's a really interesting topic for me, and I've been, like I told you before, I've been interested in that because my viewers on the podcast always seem to really engage a lot with those kind of topics. So I was like just picking it up and getting from the feedback, and I've discovered that it's a really interesting topic. Like when I discover a new topic, I just like open a new page and just start writing my thoughts down, and then I started researching about it, and I was like, oh, it's actually an interesting topic. So long story short, retirement for me is reached when you can do whatever you want to do, and then we come back to like finding your true passion, finding your true actual identity, what you want to do with your life, because when you depend on an income to a certain extent and you have savings, but you do every day what you actually love to do, like that's retirement. Like what else is there in life? Like better do something that you really love, and you don't have a crazy retirement thing. But if you really like it, like my grandpa is probably like, almost every day. It gets less and less now because he gets older and older now. But he's still every day in his small garage, where he crafts things by his hand out of wood, out of metal, and out of all those crazy things. Like at Christmas, he gives these amazing houses out of wood for everyone for Christmas. And he absolutely loves it. Like he's retired, so like he doesn't have to sell those things, but he basically could also sell those. Like find something that you really like and try to make that thing happen. Stacking is amazing, but you also have to live. So that's kind of my message. If it's better to start living soon or today, and don't like work 12 hours a day in something that you really hate, and keep stacking, like, oh, maybe I can retire in like 10 years or something like that. Sometimes you have to push through, and sometimes you have to push through for a certain amount of time, and then you might can steer towards an actual passion or something like that. But I would really encourage everybody to like view retirement not as like, oh, I'm sitting down on TV and watch it every day for 12 hours. That's not retirement. That's like sad.
Yeah. It gets boring very quick. Even sitting at the beach soaking up the sun, there's only so much that you can do. You know, I think a lot of Bitcoiners, at least for myself, have the drive. But push back a little bit. I definitely agree with what you're saying, Robin. But say somebody is just finding out about Bitcoin now. They're doing a job that they don't really like so much, but they're willing to study Bitcoin, put in 100 hours, 1,000 hours, whatever it is, over the next couple of years. And that fiat job pays really well. Maybe just suck it up, princess. Like get as much sats as you possibly can, but only for a season. I think more so like what you're saying, put in the proof of work for a little bit of time, because Bitcoin will give you your time back over time. Maybe it doesn't happen straight away. You're saying you bought a lot around 2021, you know, when it was a lot higher. that's fine, but you've studied it, you worked the fiat job, you've come out of that system now, you have gotten your time back, but only because you continued to put in the reps. It wasn't, hey, I found Bitcoin day one, I've got $1,000 in my bank, I'm going to put it in Bitcoin and I'm going to quit that job that I don't hate and not replace it with anything. That's a recipe for financial stress or financial poverty pretty quickly. But I do agree. Retirement is to be able to do whatever you want, you know, to be able to wake up and have a conversation about Bitcoin, or to be able to, like, I'm going to an animal park today with my wife to look at kangaroos and koalas and snakes because we can. Like, why not, you know? To be able to choose whatever you do. Where do you think Bitcoin is going to go over the next year? If the cycles repeat and history doesn't repeat, Bitcoin has been rhyming pretty well. Maybe September next year, give or take a couple of months, you know, 6 months either side, we could see the top of this cycle if we had to be able to come back down and then go back up. I think when we zoom out, Bitcoin's just going to continue to look up and to the right. But with Trump coming in, which is interesting, if Elon Musk actually says, yep, all right, Bitcoin, it's over 50% renewable energy, we're going to bring it back onto the balance sheet with Tesla, maybe Apple comes into the space. What type of things do you think could potentially play out this cycle? Now the conversation shifted so much. It's pretty crazy.
I would be very surprised if we would be under 100,000, under 150,000 at the top of the cycle. That would surprise me a lot. I would not be surprised if we hit even closer to the million. So like, that's the range. That's a really big range, and that's on purpose because a lot of things can happen. So like for me, I try to not give price predictions and not like give like some specific thing like, oh, there it goes there, definitely there. I saw in the chat there was one guy asking, what's the retirement amount for like in 5 to 10 years? Maybe that's an also very interesting path to discover, because the longer you go out in it, and the more you probably can say directionally. And I think as we discussed this whole episode right now, what we discussed with Trump, with the buckets that fill up with everything that we kind of have, and you also said like so nicely, we are like in year one of the true Bitcoin adoption. We could see a gold rush, a super cycle, whatever the next like 5 to 10 years, exactly that period that the gentleman in the comments mentioned. That's something that I'm highly passionate about, that Bitcoin, like when there's a big enough player coming into the scene, and when there's a big enough persons and institutions and countries coming into the scene, all those models that we try to put on the past of Bitcoin and then extrapolate it out to the future, they break. It's like you watch a football game between two persons. It's like a semi-professional football game. You switch out in one team 2 players with the Mbappe and Cristiano Ronaldo. I have no clue about football. I think they are good soccer players. The whole game shifts. The whole game, like you predicted, oh, it will be like 2-1 for that game. No, those 2 players come in. It's 10-1. It's 100-1. It depends on how much time is on the clock. So like, now we have BlackRock. It's fascinating that we have Larry Fink and BlackRock on our side. They want the Bitcoin fees. They want to cash in on the Bitcoin trend. We have Donald Trump. I think people don't get that how big of a deal that is, that the United States of America president is someone that acknowledges Bitcoin and speaks about it, educated. Not that he educated himself, but he speaks good things about it. Like, that's a big thing. So the whole idea of super cycling, gold rush, however we want to call it, for the next like 10 years could be a big thing. And then, as in the comments said, and as you also teased it with, like, where are we in 1 year? We can be at like $250,000 in 1 year. We can be at like even 400,000 in one year. And then the gold rush, like there kind of a lot happening. Like there's a lot of runway. The thing why I don't try to give price prediction is because I remember I was obsessed with those price predictions when I came into the space. And I was disappointed when then those price predictions not came true. And it almost shook me out of Bitcoin. So like, I know that those price predictions bring people in. The price itself bring people in. But at the same time, I want to emphasize, as you also had the shirt on with the gentleman that you spoke to, study Bitcoin. Don't buy it. Study it and then buy it. Like dabble in a little bit, study it, and then if you're ready to do it, go all in if you want to. And I think that's the main message here. There will be a gold rush. If it starts right now or in 5 years or in 10 years, it's the best guesses, but you want to be ready for it, and you want to be ready for it yesterday. So set up a good self-custody setup, learn why Bitcoin makes sense, learn what money is, do all the hard work that nobody wants to do, but it's so important to do, and then just like sit down and try to do as good of a stacking as you can. And also, as you said, when we talk like really nicely about retirement, all that stuff, sometimes it's, as you said, important to power through. It's important to stack as much sats as possible. I know a gentleman, and he exchanged so many great YouTube comments with me, and now we're on Telegram, we are connected, and we connect, we talk a lot about it, and he sometimes goes for like 11, 12, 13, 14 hours a day in the fiat mine to stack as much as he can, and that for 7 days a week. And I absolutely respect that a lot, and it's absolutely amazing what he has been already doing. And if you have a goal, if you are now sitting here and you have kind of the means to it, but it is hard, like get to 1 Bitcoin would be the holy grail of it. Like that, like if you have 1 Bitcoin and it's 2034, you will be doing good. Like, and depending on like the price predictions, like if it's at that point or that point, it doesn't really matter. It also doesn't matter if you bought at 30,000 or at 100,000. It makes a difference in stacking. But if you reach that 1 Bitcoin goal, I think that's the holy grail of it. That's the North Star that you look for.
I was talking to my business partner 2 days ago on the phone, and he's like, should I buy Bitcoin now? I said, yes. Yeah, I said, if you've got $10,000, put it in. And we've been talking about it. We both heard about it, $94. You know, he's one of my oldest friends, really good friend. And something exciting coming for everyone. But I said, whether it's at 50,000, 30,000, 40,000, 60,000, it really doesn't matter. If you're to buy one and it's going to $1 million, who cares if you turn 30, like even like $30 into $100, $50 into $100, just to like break down the math, really simple. It truly doesn't matter. And I said, you know, if you've got that 10,000, maybe just put 5,000 in today and then space the rest out over a week and do it. I'll give him a call today and see if he actually did or didn't. And we're up, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 since that conversation. But it's still a bloody good deal. I was buying at $3,000. I was buying at $73,000. And I've continued to keep buying. We've stacked 4 times last week, once this week already. Bitcoin's like so insanely cheap right now for where we're going. And for me, you know, I'll bring up other people's price predictions. Personally, I believe we're going to $0 or we're going to $1 million. I believe that's inevitable, and I don't think we're going to $0. I just won't let it happen. You probably are not going to let Bitcoin crash. If it goes down, you know, to $3,000, $2,000, even $30,000, we just increase the amount that we're stacking. And there's some people that go irresponsibly long, sell their house, get a mortgage on the house, whatever it is to be able to get that cheap Bitcoin. And we've seen more so, I guess, like with this, not really a flaw. Bitcoin can still get back below $50,000, but I think after the last week, it's pretty unlikely with what we saw with Germany selling. Like Germany selling was one thing. Cool, that's great. And they brought the price down a fair bit. But what is most interesting to me is Wall Street came in and stepped back up to the plate. They had so little inflows for so long. Germany starts dumping, and then Wall Street had the best week that they've had in a very long time. Like, let's go. If people aren't convinced or bullish about that at these prices, and they're worried that $57,000 could turn into $47,000 or whatever, that's just comes down to a lack of information, putting in the proof of work, reading the books, watching the podcast. So, Robin, what are some of the books of Bitcoin that you've really enjoyed reading that you'd recommend for people?
I mean, for me, it's the one that I still recommend because it orange pilled me. It's the Bitcoin Standard. It's such a cliche answer. I'm a really an audio type of a guy. So when I came into Bitcoin, I watched like hours and hours and hours of podcasts of Cybersecurity, of Seyr, of all those great people that are way smarter than me in any regards. So I'm a podcast guy. That's why I also do the podcast. I learn a lot with like audio visuals. The Bitcoin Standard is for me the kind of the setting the groundwork. Cybersecurity's work is amazing. There are a lot of other amazing books out there that have been written. I feel like every second Bitcoiner has a book written. I came to know now with the podcast because I do the research on all the speakers. There are immensely a lot of books out there. I would firstly go do the Bitcoin Standard. I would also check out Bitcoin Twitter. I would also check out all those podcasts that have so many interesting informations out there, because also you can then see the people, and then you see like, oh, is he interesting? You listen in like 30 minutes, and then you're like, oh, if you want to dive deeper in what he has to say, just buy his book. And that's what I always did, like finding someone. And I'm still so sad that Seyr did not write a book. I think it would be a massive hit. But he is doing a great job on the podcast. Just find the people that resonate with you, and kind of the Bitcoin story resonates with them, because everyone has a different way of explaining Bitcoin. Everyone has a different perspective. So even if like there's like a set of like 3 or 4 books that you can recommend, it's better to go in there and find the few persons that you really resonate with. Like, for example, I don't like him now that much, but Anthony Pompliano was very significant in my orange building in 2020. I listened to a lot what he had to say.
Me too.
It was a massive for me. So I just suck up every content of him. Like, I was watching him like an hour daily, at least, and so many other people also. Like, just go in there and learn as you can go, and find those people who make sense for you.
That's pretty much spot on with me as well, especially Anthony Pompliano. Someone I'd like to have a conversation with. I don't know if I'd put it out as a podcast because he's a bit of a shitcoiner as well, but here's imperative in my journey, and I'm truly grateful for him, the podcast that he had there. But to tack on to what you were saying, whether somebody resonates with me or they resonate with you, where Bitcoin is now, like say 5 years ago or 10 years ago, there wasn't such a a vast amount of resources or people or books or tweets or podcasts, whatever it is, like you sort of, everyone went to Anthony Pompilano, for example, where now you can just find the person that communicates in your style that you like to listen to, or like you like to watch, or you like to hear their thoughts. We're given so many options, and that's great because different strokes for different folks. There's so many options out there. There's now no excuse. Oh, I didn't like what Sean had to say about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not for me. No, go find somebody else that you do like listening to, because Bitcoin is for everyone. It's important for absolutely everyone to be able to understand it. If you truly understand, you still don't buy it. You probably didn't understand it, but play it on that. If you understand it and you don't buy it, that's okay. That's an informed decision. That's fine. But to be ignorant now. So definitely on there. I have linked your Seyr video below for everyone watching live or watching the replay. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I'll link Robin's Twitter as well. That YouTube video is below, so make sure you subscribe to Robin. But final thought, mate, I'm going to put you full screen. The floor is yours. A message for the audience, something that you'd like to depart for everyone that has tuned in today.
There was something in the chat, because I always look a little bit on with one eye on the chat, and I'm really satisfied with the conversations there. And there was a conversation, but it was like, oh, how ironic is that we are talking all about the fiat price in Bitcoin, and then there was someone saying, oh, how else should we do it? Because this is what people are saying, and there's a really, really important message in there. First of all, yes, it's important that we talk in fiat price, because when we want to go out in the community and spread Bitcoin above our bubble, that's the language that everyone speaks. Fiat price, the local currencies. That's like, how many euros is my banana? Like that's the language of the not Bitcoiners. But the interesting thing is, once you stop looking at the fiat price, and I kind of did in like last year around that time, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, I still want to measure Bitcoin. And the thing I usually do is, like, I look at the medium house prices, the medium prices for anything cost of living specific, maybe buying a house, maybe buying a car, maybe buying something about that thing. And how many Bitcoin do I need for the average house in my area? How many Bitcoin do I need to have like a 1 year worth of grocery store shopping? That's a really interesting way to look at Bitcoin and see the true power of purchasing power going up. And I just saw it in the chat. Robin, how tall are you? I'm almost 2 meters, so 198. That's how I leave the floor today. I really like stack as hard as you can. Try when you're already in Bitcoin, and probably like the people that are now in the chat probably are already in Bitcoin, or at least further down the line than most of the people. Go and really try to live on a Bitcoin standard as much as you can. I know you probably cannot spend Bitcoin because there are tax implications. I know you maybe cannot get Bitcoin as your salary because of your job and stuff like that. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is that you, in your mind, start adopting a Bitcoin standard. In your mind, you're like, oh, I have that amount of Bitcoin that can buy me right now so much time, so much houses, so much whatever. Or like I can buy now like 75% of that house. And if I stack harder, if I make like the second job, or like make that overtime thing, I might get to 100% of the house in like end of the year. Like, set yourself a goal. Like it's always important to strive for something, to go for something. And like you having Bitcoin right now is a massive unfair advantage that you will have in 10 years time. Do something with that, and prepare for that. Like there's a lot coming your way, because you have been early in something that will be massively successful. And so prepare for whatever comes your way. There are a lot of there are a lot of angles in there, but I'll leave it at that. Prepare for what's to come. There will be a gold rush, and no matter how you measure Bitcoin in houses or in fiat, it's important to kind of speak the language outside of our bubble if we really want to get to them. That's my final thoughts. Thank you, Sean, for letting me on the stage today. I'm really appreciating you as a host, really appreciating your content. It's been an absolute pleasure. One thing I just realized last time when I gathered my guest appearances is I saw that the first ever English guest appearances I had on your channel. So I'm really thankful for you giving me the stage when I was just coming up. This was really, really cool of you to bring me up on your stage and give me the introduction to the Bitcoin podcasting world. I had a podcast before in German, but you're the first one that did it internationally, like English. And I appreciate that a lot. And I'm really glad that I could come back a second time and talk with you about Bitcoin. And it's been a pleasure being in the Bitcoin community. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Robin, it's such a blessing, and I dare say this will not be the last time that we have a conversation and share it live or recorded for everyone. The proof of work that you've been putting in, absolutely relentless, putting out podcasts every single day, the conversations, absolutely amazing. I love everything that you're doing, the person that you are in the world, spreading hope for humanity. There, in my opinion, there's nothing more important to be able to do it, and I'm so grateful that you're here getting the message out. Yes, number go app technology, but it's so much more than that, and I hope people gained a little bit of that from our conversation today. For everyone watching, definitely jump onto Robin's channel. I've put that link below for everyone, and I'll put his X below as well. As soon as the video's gone live, it's not there as it's uploaded. It's not there right now, but it'll be there in about 2 minutes. So I'll get that sorted. Make sure you follow Robin, and we'll see you on the next video. Have a beautiful day. Do something nice for yourself, for somebody else out there. Be blessed. Peace.